Good morning. I have missed a few Jesus bubbles this week and weekend, so I apologize about that. I've been working with a really incredible project called Church 2, and it's a documentary feature film about abuse in the church and how churches can respond to abuse in a better way. So that's been consuming a ton of my focus this last few days. But I am getting back on track now that phase of the project is done. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Emily's Designs. Emily Designs is the graphic genius that is behind the Wild Women in Leadership Development logo and Bucket Brigade logo. And she's just a fantastic graphic designer and a pretty fantastic person too. So, hey, if you need a graphic design, check out Emily Designs. And I recently was gifted this fabulous mug with her logo on it. So this morning, 57 is an interesting chapter. And I love seeing everyone this morning. It's so nice to see you all. Hey, I'd love it if you liked it, shared it, dropped me a little emoji. That's super awesome. Isaiah 57, it has two halves, and they're very, very different types of chapters, types of passages, rather, in this chapter. It starts out with some basic facts. I mean, we all know this stuff, right? Good people pass away, and the godly often die before their time, but no one seems to care or know why. No one seems to understand that God is protecting them from the evil to come. But those who follow godly paths will rest in peace when they die. But you, come here, and this is where it starts to get really, really a little bit crazy. Not crazy. I mean, I'm not calling the Bible crazy. It's a completely different perspective on things. But you, come here, you witches' children, you offspring of adulterers and prostitutes. Whom do you mock, making faces and sticking out your tongue, you children of sinners and liars? You worship your idols with great passion beneath the oaks and under every green tree. You sacrifice your children down in the valleys, among the jagged rocks and the cliffs. Your gods are smooth stones in the valleys. You worship them with liquid offerings and grain offerings. They, not I, are your inheritance. So here, God is talking about how his people who profess to be his children, are really just worshiping other things. They're worshiping the occult. They're worshiping themselves. They're worshiping man-made idols. They're worshiping achievement. They're worshiping ego. They're worshiping pride. They're pouring out their resources, their energy, their time, their affection on false idolatry. Now, idolatry means false idols, false forms of worship. Now, these days, we don't necessarily go, and I certainly hope we're not sacrificing any children. We are not bowing down in the West anyway, in Western culture usually, in front of idols. But we have plenty of other ways of sacrificing false things, of worshiping false things that aren't anywhere near connected to the real deal. They're not at all tied to the genuineness and the beauty of God and his character. And so I want to jump over to verse 14. We're in Isaiah 57, verse 14. Actually, we're gonna just go up a little bit. Verse 12. I apologize, getting ahead of myself. Let's see if your idols can save you when you cry to them for help. Why, a puff of wind can knock them down. If you just breathe on them, they fall over. In other words, these idols, they're man-made. They're invented. They're not divine. They don't stand on their own 2 feet. When we're worshiping false things, we're worshiping things that are smaller than us because we're the ones who've created those false things. We're not worshiping something that's bigger than us. And the human spirit longs for something bigger than us, for something that we can look up to, that we're protected by, that knows more than we do. And so God is saying, whoever trusts in me, this is the end of verse 13, will inherit the land and possess my holy mountain. God says, rebuild the road. Clear away the rocks and stones so my people can return from captivity. The high and lofty one who lives in eternity, the Holy One, says this, I live in the high and holy place with those. Now here's the key. Who does God live with in those high and holy places? With those whose spirits are contrite and humble. I will restore the crushed spirit of the humble and revive the courage of those with repentant hearts. So here's the thing. When we are not contrite and humble, the inverse of this is also true. If we are not contrite and humble, that means we cannot be living with God in high and holy places. If one is true, then the reverse must also be true. If God only lives with contrite and humble people, then those who are prideful and unrepentant, not just sorry, but unwilling to change, they are not going to be with him in high and holy places. He says, verse 16, I will not fight against you forever. I will not always be angry. If I were, all people would pass away, all the souls that I have made. I was angry, and so I punished the greedy people, but they kept going on their own stubborn way. Verse 18, I have seen what they do, but I will heal them anyway. I will lead them. I will comfort those who mourn, bringing words of praise to their lips. May they have abundant peace, both near and far, says the Lord, who heals them. But those who reject me are like the restless sea, which is never still, but continually churns up mud and dirt. Have you ever been around someone who just seems at peace? Someone who seems at ease with themselves. There's no internal conflict. And I don't mean that they don't have issues, but they're just secure in who they are. God says that those who reject him are like the restless sea. They're never still. They're churning up mud and dirt. They're just not at peace with themselves. And he says there is, by verse 21, last verse of Isaiah 57, there is no peace for the wicked. Which leads me to believe that, again, the inverse would also be true. There is peace for the righteous. For those who are following what God has told them to do, for those who are humble and contrite, there is peace. For those who are surrendered, for those who are allowing God to restore our crushed spirits, these are the ones that will be healed. These are the ones that will be comforted, and that God will bring words of praise to our lips. So my thought for you this morning is just that if you are someone who has had a crushed spirit, God is there, and he wants to heal you and restore your spirit. If you are someone who has experienced brokenness and you need healing, God is here, and he wants to comfort, and he wants to heal. The path to getting there is contrition and humility. So if you're trying to fix it and make it better and not let anyone get involved and not tell anyone anything about it and not reach outside of yourself, it's going to be very, very hard to experience that healing and that restoration. But if you're willing to be vulnerable and open and humble, if you're willing to embrace contrition, then God is right there, and he's waiting, and he wants to be part of it. And I know that may sound, depending on your background, that may sound really like, oh, that sounds kind of trite. But the way I have experienced it, it's not trite at all. God can make himself so personally, deeply known to us as individuals if we just open our ears and listen and ask him, God, make yourself known to me. Help me to find contrition and humility. And he will. It may not be a pain-free journey, but he will. And those are my thoughts from my Jesus bubble this morning. If you've been blessed, I hope you'll like it, share it, pass it on to a friend, let someone else be blessed too. And hey, if you're on Facebook, I really hope that you will follow closely. This whole month I'm wearing purple, gonna be wearing a lot of purple this month. It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And there are so many different forms, 12 actually, forms of domestic violence that 11 of them don't leave bruises. And so awareness, education, and a lot of resources about domestic violence and domestic violence awareness over on my Facebook page, and some here on Instagram too. So yeah, that's what this October month is going to be focused on, including a lot of encouragement and healing, amazing songs. I'm super, super excited. So I hope that you will join me and that you will share, because I guarantee someone in your life is experiencing some form of domestic violence, and they're going to need to hear or read or see some of the things that are going to be posted. So anyway, have a fabulous Monday. Start to your week, and we will see you later on the next Jesus Bubble.